It was inevitable for me to do a comparison of these two series. Not only because they are both the work of Julian Fellows, but also because they have so many similarities. Think about it. Both center around rich people who want to stay relevant and the people whose livelihoods depend on their rich employers staying relevant. There's a central married couple in both, George and Bertha in The Gilded Age and Robert and Cora in Downton Abbey. A family matriarch who has the best lines, Violet Crawley versus Agnes Van Ryn. Another common character trope is the spinster who finds love later in life. Of course, I'm talking about Edith and Ada. While leaving behind these similarities, The Gilded Age and Downton Abbey also have various differences, which is normal as they take place in different locations and time periods. While the Russells try to climb the social ladders in the 1880s of New York, the characters in Downton Abbey start their journey in 1912 in England. Of course, time and place are not the only things that are different. In this video, I'll do a detailed comparison of these two series and see which one does a better job as a whole. Let's start. Time and change. The American dream and the belief in progress are themselves like characters in The Gilded Age. Time and change are a big part of what makes the Gilded Age story so interesting. This is not only the case for the upper wealthy. The opportunity to climb social ladders is presented to the lower classes, the downstairs staff for example. You can see this with Turner, who transformed from a lady's maid into a lady herself. Even though this happened through marriage, it still showed the downstairs people did not have to be imprisoned to where they were. The same goes for Jack, who just received a patent for his invention. He's about to get rich in The Gilded Age Season 3, which also shows the possibilities for the house staff. When you compare this with Downton Abbey, you see that Downton's staff didn't really have any hope for upward movement. They just hoped to keep their jobs. Many of the staff there were employed by the estate for most of their lives, so they faced existential threats. It's true that the staff in the Van Ryn household also faced a similar situation at the end of The Gilded Age Season 2, but in comparison, time and change show them more promises rather than threats. They didn't have to be royals or nobles to have a chance at a better life. I think this brings more excitement and also endless possibilities for the characters in The Gilded Age, which is why I like it more in this regard. The Gilded Age has the first vote. Downstairs and upstairs. If you watch both series, you'll immediately notice that Downton Abbey focuses on the downstairs people much more than The Gilded Age does. In Downton Abbey, you watch the petty squabbles of the house staff. They are just mean and it's so fun witnessing their quarrels. Although some people had problems with the amount of meanness when it came to the servants of Downton Abbey, I certainly thought it was fun. When we look at The Gilded Age, the upstairs people are more important and prominent in the story. You follow their storylines most of the time, and little storylines about the servants are sprinkled here and there, and they are not really consistent. I get that there are too many characters, but there were too many characters in Downton Abbey as well, but it did a pretty good job of balancing the stories of the upstairs and downstairs people. Whereas The Gilded Age hasn't found its ground yet when it comes to this aspect. I'm guessing having different households, the Russells and the Van Ryns, has a share in this. In Downton Abbey, the characters were all in the same household, so it was much easier to follow their lives. The same cannot be said for especially the servants of The Gilded Age. On the point of the representation of the servants, Downton Abbey takes the point. Characters compared. I don't know if you're like this when you watch a show, but I always love it when characters are approachable and dynamic. This can be said for The Gilded Age, where you see characters almost leaping off the screen. It feels like you know them really well. In comparison, the characters in Downton Abbey are cold and distant. Of course, this is related to the time they live in and also to the fact that it's a British series, but as a viewer, I enjoy the characters in The Gilded Age more. There's an exception though, of course, it's the Dowager, portrayed by Maggie Smith. Although I love Agnes with all my being and I enjoy her insults very much, there's no one like the Dowager. Her one-liners that are now iconic can never be forgotten. Remember these classics? I never argue, I explain. Or, don't be defeatist dear, it's very middle class. She truly is an exceptional character. Overall though, I enjoy watching Bertha and George more. I'm more invested in their story than I ever was in Robert and Cora's, which is a shame. I have to say, The Gilded Age takes another point. Bonus round. If you've been following this channel, you'll know that I have a soft spot for the fashion of the Gilded Age. Compared to the fashion of Downton Abbey's time, the outfits in the Gilded Age are more vibrant, more interesting, and more fun to look at. The Gilded Age takes a bonus point. Well, maybe it's recency bias, maybe it's not. I think The Gilded Age is a better show than Downton Abbey. You can disagree and I would understand. Just remember that this is my own opinion. Tell me, what's the best show for you? Let's have a discussion in the comments. Don't forget to like and share. Subscribe to next season for similar content. See you soon.